Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
Today, we're tackling something pretty timely and honestly pretty heavy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, we're going to be looking at Tuskegee University's plan for shifting to remote instruction during emergencies.
Right.
And this is especially relevant right now in light of, the recent events on campus.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is not just about, flipping a switch and moving classes online. This is about providing that sense of normalcy and support when the entire community is dealing with a lot.
Yeah, and the weight of that responsibility really falls on the Office of Distance Education and Online Learning.
Right. ODOL.
ODOL, yeah. So they're really the ones leading the charge here, trying to make this transition as smooth as possible for everyone involved.
What's really interesting is that Tuskegee had the foresight to develop this plan before these events happened.
Oh, wow.
So it wasn't a reactive measure, it was proactive, which is pretty impressive.
That's credible, yes. So they were prepared. So let's get into the specifics of the plan. What are some of the key elements that stand out to you?
Well, I think one of the things that really jumps out is the emphasis on training both for faculty and support staff.
Hmm.
They're not just assuming that everyone's going to be comfortable, teaching online overnight.
Right.
The plan outlines these extensive training sessions on everything from navigating Canvas, which is their learning management system,
Uh-huh.
to using video conferencing tools like Zoom and Microsoft Teams.
That makes sense. But, some faculty are probably already familiar with those tools, right?
Sure, some are, but everyone's at a different level.
Yeah.
Some might be pros, some might need a little more hand-holding.
Sure.
And let's not forget about the support staff who are, crucial to keeping things running smoothly behind the scenes.
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like they've got the training aspect covered, but what about the actual teaching itself? Moving lectures online is one thing, but how do you replicate those hands-on interactive elements of learning?
Well, and that's where it gets interesting. Okay.
The plan goes beyond just, straight lectures. It includes a bunch of different tools like using Studio for pre-recorded lectures so students can watch at their own pace.
Right.
And even simulations using platforms like PET, which allows for interactive experiences.
So they're really trying to capture that richness of the classroom even in a remote setting.
Exactly. And it's not just about the technology itself, it's about how it's used. The plan really stresses active learning strategies like, using breakout rooms in Zoom for discussions or creating interactive quizzes in Canvas.
So it sounds like they're really putting a lot of thought into making this work for both the faculty and the students. But what about the issue of academic integrity?
Right.
How do they ensure fairness in grading when everything's online?
That's a really important point, and the plan addresses it head on.
Okay.
They'll be using Canvas for assignments and discussions, which provides a lot of flexibility.
Sure.
But for exams and quizzes, they're incorporating proctoring tools like Respondus and ProctorU.
Those names ring a bell. Can you remind me how those work? Yeah, so basically these tools monitor students during online exams to prevent cheating.
Okay.
They might record the student's webcam feed, track their eye movements, or even lock down their browser.
Wow, that's pretty intense.
It is.
I can see why it's necessary.
Yeah.
But I imagine some students might feel a little uncomfortable with that level of scrutiny.
Yeah, and that's a valid concern, and I'm sure the university is taking steps to address those concerns and ensure privacy.
Of course.
But it does highlight those complexities of doing assessments online, especially, when you're dealing with students who are already dealing with the trauma of recent events.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just about the logistics, it's about the human element too.
Right.
And speaking of that, the plan mentions mental health resources for students.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so the plan recognizes that students are going through a lot emotionally, and it emphasizes the availability of counseling services, both in person and online. They're also encouraging faculty to be mindful of student well-being and to create a supportive online environment.
So it's a multi-pronged approach.
Exactly. Support coming from both the institution and the faculty.
Right. So it's about creating this safety net for students, recognizing that their academic success is tied to their emotional well-being.
Right. Especially in the aftermath of, such a traumatic event.
Yeah, and it sounds like they're taking a very thoughtful and comprehensive approach to this whole situation.
They are.
But I am curious, how are faculty and staff being supported during their transition? They're part of the community that's been affected too.
That's a great point. And the plan does acknowledge that.
Okay.
In addition to the technical training, there are resources and workshops specifically designed to help faculty and staff cope with the emotional impact of everything that's happened.
It's not just about teaching them how to teach online, but also about supporting them as individuals.
Exactly. It's recognizing that everyone in the Tuskegee community is going through this together
Yeah.
and needs that support.
And needs that support. Absolutely.
It's about fostering that sense of community even when you're physically apart.
Right. Creating that support system.
Exactly.
But shifting gears a little bit here, let's talk about accessibility.
Yeah.
Not every student has the same access to technology or reliable internet. How does the plan address that?
That's a huge consideration and one that Tuskegee is definitely taking seriously.
Okay.
Now, the plan doesn't lay out, super specific steps,
Yeah.
but it does stress how important it is to make sure all students have the tools and support they need to participate fully in this online environment.
So it's more like a guiding principle
Yeah.
than like a set of instructions.
Right.
But wouldn't that lead to inconsistencies? How
Yeah.
different departments or even different faculty handle the issue?
That's a fair point, and it underscores the need for ongoing communication and collaboration.
Yeah.
The ODOL is probably working directly with those individual departments to figure out what they need and what solutions will work best for them.
Right. It's not one size fits all.
Exactly.
It sounds like the ODOL is really playing a central role here
Oh, absolutely.
in making all of this work.
They're not just managing, the technical side of this transition.
Right.
They're also serving as that central hub for information and resources and support.
So they're like the glue that's holding it all together.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so we've talked about the training, we've talked about accessibility and support for both faculty and students, but what about the learning itself?
Right.
How are they making sure that students are actually staying engaged and motivated in this new remote environment?
Well, that's a great question, and the plan actually goes into quite a bit of detail about that.
Okay.
They emphasize the importance of sticking to a regular schedule for those live sessions,
Okay.
using the discussion forums in Canvas to encourage interaction and creating, activities that get students actively involved.
So it's about building that sense of routine and community even in the online space.
Exactly.
But I mean, that sounds like a lot of extra work for the faculty. On top of learning new technology and just adjusting to this whole new way of teaching,
Yeah.
now they have to come up with all these creative ways to keep students engaged, too.
It definitely adds a layer of complexity,
Right.
but the plan does acknowledge that and offers support.
Right.
The ODOL has workshops on designing engaging online activities,
Right.
and they have this peer mentorship program so faculty can share ideas and best practices with each other.
So it's not just telling them what to do, it's giving them the tools to actually do it.
Right? They're not on their own.
So it's not just about, throwing technology at the problem. It's about using technology in a way that actually enhances the learning experience.
Exactly, thoughtfully and intentionally.
I'm curious about how they're actually measuring the success of this whole plan.
Right.
How do they know if it's working? Are they getting feedback from students and faculty?
That's a great question, and one I'm sure the ODOL is thinking about a lot.
Yeah.
The plan does mention using surveys and focus groups to gather input, but it's probably an ongoing process. They'll need to keep monitoring and evaluating how things are going and make adjustments as needed.
So it's a living document.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
not static. It has to evolve as the situation does.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it really is.
This brings up something I've been thinking about. This plan was created in response to a very specific event.
Right.
But I wonder, are there any broader lessons here that other institutions could learn from?
That's a really interesting thought.
Even those that haven't faced a similar trauma.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's a lot here that applies to any school dealing with the challenges of online learning,
Right.
whether it's because of a crisis, a pandemic, or just, the evolving landscape of education in general.
Like the importance of training and support for faculty and staff.
Right.
Focusing on accessibility and equity, making sure everyone has a chance to succeed,
Exactly.
and really emphasizing creating that supportive and inclusive learning environment.
Yeah, those are universal principles.
And let's not forget about flexibility and adaptability.
Right. Being able to adjust quickly to changing circumstances, that's key.
Absolutely. And I'm also struck by how much emphasis they put on the human element of all of this.
Right.
It's not just about the technology, it's about the people.
Yeah, exactly. Students and faculty, they're not just, numbers on a spreadsheet. They're individuals with their own needs and challenges and goals.
So in a way, this tragedy forced Tuskegee to really grapple with some fundamental questions about the future of education.
Yeah, and they're doing it with, such grace and resilience.
It's really inspiring.
It is. It gives me hope that other schools can learn from their example and create more resilient, more compassionate learning environments for all students.
It's a powerful story.
It is. It really is. As we've been talking about this plan,
Yeah.
the thing that keeps coming back to me is just how intentional it all seems.
Intentional. In what sense?
Well, it's clear they didn't just, throw this together at the last minute.
Yeah.
They really took the time to think through all the challenges,
Yeah.
consider everyone's needs and create a system that's not just comprehensive, but also compassionate.
I see what you mean. It's not just a checklist of tasks. It really reflects their values
Exactly.
and their commitment to the well-being of the entire community.
Right. And that intentionality shows up everywhere.
Yeah.
From how they structured the training
Right.
to the emphasis on communication and support.
I'm especially impressed with how they've incorporated those mental health resources.
Yeah.
It's not just an afterthought. It's woven right into the plan.
Absolutely. They understand that mental health is just as crucial as physical health.
Especially during times like these.
Exactly. And it's not just about offering resources. It's about creating a culture where it's okay to ask for help.
And that goes for everyone you know.
Yeah.
Students, faculty, staff.
Everyone's affected by this.
Exactly. And the plan recognizes that.
Yeah.
Encouraging faculty and staff to take care of themselves as well as their students.
It's about recognizing that interconnectedness,
Yeah.
We're all in this together.
It's a really holistic approach.
It is, and it's a good reminder that resilience isn't just about individual strength.
Right.
It's about community support.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I have this overwhelming sense of admiration for how Tuskegee is handling this incredibly difficult situation.
I agree. They're really setting an example for other institutions.
Yeah.
Showing how to respond to a crisis with both compassion and practicality.
And proving that even in the darkest of times,
Yeah.
there's still hope and there's still that potential for growth.
Beautifully said. Tuskegee's story is truly a testament to the resilience of the human spirit
It is.
and the power of community. It's a story that needs to be shared and celebrated.
And hopefully will inspire other institutions to prioritize the well-being of their students and faculty,
Yes.
not just during crises, but always.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for guiding us through this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure. And to our listeners, we hope this exploration of Tuskegee's plan has given you some valuable insights and maybe even sparked some ideas of your own. Until next time, keep those brains buzzing.